The following is not suited to uneducated individuals.
Welcome back, everyone. It's the Shoal Weekly Podcast, Season 2, bringing you a whole new dose of film, TV, and pop culture. I'm your host, Joe, joined by Ben and Charlie. How have your weeks been, guys?
All right, cheers, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, it's good. It's bloody hot, isn't it?
It's too warm.
It's too warm.
Yeah, a bit warm. Thank you.
Tell me you're a British podcaster without telling me you're a British podcaster. Oh, it's a bit too warm, isn't it?
Bit too warm.
Too warm. Bit too warm.
Checks the thermostat and it's 16 degrees.
Oh, a bit warm. How have you been, Ben?
Yes, very hot as well.
Yeah.
Too warm.
I mean, I personally just can't help it. You know, I walk in the room and it just.
All right, okay. Well, I always have to close my windows so that we don't get any background noise. And 45 minutes of recording a podcast in this kind of heat, I'm just drenched.
Balls are sweaty.
Yeah.
Mum's spaghetti.
As always, do be sure to follow our socials for updates and news. And actually, this is our last podcast before our new festival as well. Very exciting. Charlie, our resident film student with plenty of films, obviously. Yeah, well, I wasn't going to say that, but has curated some really, really great best of British films. That's going to be in our festival, which is kicking off next week. So yeah, do be sure you are subscribed for that. Drop us a like as well. Hit that notification bell, and we appreciate the support. And once that the festival is over, if you do have a film you want us to break down in season 3, please leave a comment either on our socials or in the YouTube comments, and we'll be sure to get it on the list. But today we're going to talk about Airplane, classic comedy from 1980. Very outdated, but we'll probably talk about that later. But God, I forgot how funny it was. It's bloody hilarious in places. But before we get onto that, Ben, what have you been watching this week?
Not a lot of TV, except for some more Castle. Shock.
It popped up on my on Netflix the other day, and I was just like, no, I'm not watching.
It's been listening to you.
Oh, no,
been listening
you've
to
got
our
watch
podcast.
it. You've got to watch it. It's on Disney though. It's on Star.
That's the one. Sorry, Disney, not Netflix.
Get
I knew I'd
right,
seen it
Joe.
somewhere.
Oh.
That's how much I just don't care.
No, it's very good. I actually finished off Lucifer season 5, which I think I mentioned last week.
Oh, why?
And yeah, I enjoyed that. That was good. Very interesting depictions. But it's made me realize how good Castle is, which is pretty nice. It's nice to have like 8 seasons of something just to plow through.
I've come to a strange conclusion about you, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
You like really, really dark
Bastard.
You like really, really dark religious stuff.
Why? Is it because you might be watching something that I told you to watch?
Oh, what? That was a very good segue. Congratulations.
Can we just say before we move on? It says on our little script thing here that Ben's just been watching England. Just England in general.
We are recording this a week in lieu, so listeners,
the
if you're a bit
football.
confused, yeah. England versus Croatia was yesterday for us.
What a boring game.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was in the pub, so
I was in the pub as well, but it was still boring. Nothing happened.
Did you get drenched by a lager?
I got drenched by the sun, mate. It was absolutely baking, 26 degrees. It was just like not okay.
Yeah. But no, yeah. So as I was saying, I've noticed that you really like dark religious stuff. You know, Castlevania. I don't know, Lucifer. You liked Blood of Zeus as well.
Oh yeah, that was dark. Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that you kind of like that stuff, which has made me think about our next festival. Which, just a little hint for our listeners, our avid listeners, it's going to be more sort of Halloween inspired. So I'm thinking of dropping a couple things into it.
Oh, great, terrific!
of that.
I just love horror films, as you know. I can't
Yeah.
wait.
But that's the thing why it surprised me is that, week after week we come here and we have a chat and it's like, Ben, what have you been watching? It's like, oh yeah, Season of Witches or Castlevania or like just and yet you are terrified about our upcoming fourth festival that's going to be in the autumn season because
So the thing is, right? Let's just put some context onto this. Castlevania. Firstly, it's an anime, right? So, well, it's not even anime; it's more cartoon.
firstly it's bloody awesome.
It is incredible TV. If you want to, honestly, it's the best. It is definitely up there with like my number one TV show. I don't think anything else
Wow.
tops it. Like it's
Yeah.
incredible. It just gets better as well, Joe. You've just finished season 1, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I was just about to say that's what I've been watching this week. I've just literally about an hour ago finished season 1, just starting season 2.
How many seasons is there?
There's 4, but season 1's only got 4 episodes in it, so it's actually only about 1 hour and 20 minutes to watch
Okay.
all of season 1, and then you're done. And then season 2, 3, and 4 have like 8 and 10 episodes or something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that.
Right.
So yeah, really easy to watch, and the animation is fantastic. It's got a really good voice cast in it as well. Richard Armitage from The Hobbit
Oh yeah.
plays like the vampire hunter. I think also one of the other hobbits that was in the trilogy, it plays Dracula. I think that big brutish hobbit. I think his name was like Dwalin or something like that.
Right.
The Scottish one that had like the tattoo on his head. I think he voices Dracula, and then yeah, it's fantastic. So it's not an anime that has originated from Japan. It's a Netflix original anime-inspired animation.
What's it about?
Well, essentially, it's set in Middle Ages Romania.
Right.
So during then, it was more called
Transylvania.
Transylvania, Wallachia, and basically, Dracula has been married to this human, and it's like the only human he's ever loved. And she gets one day, like episode 1, it's not really spoilers at all. Episode 1, she gets burnt at the stake for being a witch.
She's a witch.
Exactly.
She's actually a
scientist.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But she gets burnt at the stake for being a witch, and Dracula kind of loses his shit and unleashes the horde from hell.
Right.
And when I say horde from hell, I do not mean that lightly. I am talking about giant vampire bats eating babies and ripping people apart, kind of.
Lovely.
It's incredibly gory. You see everything.
Right.
And then Richard Armitage voices Trevor Belmont from the House of Belmont, and they are like throughout history have been this famous noble family of vampire hunters.
Right. Okay.
So he's the last one in the line. He hasn't got any kids or anything, and he's a bit of a drunk now. So it's that typical kind of like hero redemption story.
Redemption arc. Yeah.
And basically, he ends up in Gretchen, which is like the main city at the start of season 1, and
just like hunts him, does he?
Yeah, he actually seeks the help of Dracula's son, who is also a vampire, ironically, and they kind of form like an alliance, and that's where I've got to.
Right.
Just so it's really good. Go check it out, listeners at home as well.
What's it on?
Netflix. It's a Netflix original.
So, yeah,
really, really good. Chaz, what have you been watching this week?
I rewatched Hot Fuzz, which is very fun to
Yarp.
revisit. Yarp. Nobody tells me nothing.
Did you watch it for the greater good?
I did.
Yeah, great, you're good.
I love how you managed to get that in there.
Thank you. We're on it today with the segues, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I forgot how like cohesive that film is. Like it's a lot better than I remember it being.
Easily the strongest of the Cornetto trilogy.
Cornetto. Yeah.
Cornetto.
Yeah. I don't know. Actually, I like Shaun of the Dead. I think
Shaun of the Dead's fantastic. I think World's End was a letdown.
Yeah, it drops off after those two, doesn't it?
It was. They kind of just tried to milk the same jokes, but it just didn't really work.
I think it would have been really good if, say, for example, Edgar Wright had directed Paul, because that was also Nick Clegg and was it Nick Clegg? Yeah,
Simon.
Nick Clegg.
What's his name? Nick
Cage, definitely
the leader of the Labour Party.
Lib Dem, isn't he?
Yeah. Is
Nick
it?
Frost.
I'm getting there. We go. Nick Frost,
Simon, someone as well.
Simon Pegg, and Nick Frost. There we go. I knew there was I knew there was like an egg in there somewhere. Clegg, Pegg,
Egg.
Yeah. So I think they went on to do Paul after they did
which I quite enjoyed that film. Paul.
It's so funny. I recently
Yeah.
rewatched that. It's really funny, and I think it's got the same kind of vibe as the Cornetto trilogy, even if it isn't
Yeah.
like an Edgar Wright film. But
Like a lot of people didn't like Paul though, from what I can remember, like
I
back
think
in the
it's so
day.
funny.
But I think it's great. Yeah, it's a
I
very
love it.
nerdy film as well, which just always helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'll never forget that line. You know, when he's like, "Yo, fuck nuts, it's probing time." And
Yeah. Anybody want
so-
one of these?
Anybody? What a great film. Speaking of really great comedies, this week we did watch, well, in Charlie's case, has recently rewatched Airplane, so we're going to talk about it. Sorry, every time I say the film title, I suppose we should try and shout it because it does have an
Yeah,
exclamation
exclamation,
mark.
yeah.
So this week we
Airplane.
watched Airplane. Ben, why don't you break down the
Fucking hell.
film for us to get us started? I've killed Ben.
Oh right, okay. So
Sorry, Ben. What's Airplane about?
Airplane is a.
No, you didn't say it right. Airplane.
Sorry. Let me try again.
Yeah.
Airplane.
Gain on this
Right.
recording is going to be horrible.
Yeah.
R.I.P. headphone users.
Yeah.
So Airplane is a 1980 film that was made with a $3.5 million budget, and it made $170 million at the box office.
That's quite a cozy profit.
Bad
That
returns.
is a
Bad
very yeah. So it did very, very well, and it's very obvious why it did very well. It's a film about a rather eclectic cast of characters that are stuck on a plane together, and it turns out that somebody, as they later find out, has not done the required health checks and inspections on the onboard catering. So everybody on the plane who had the fish for dinner suddenly contracts a semi-lethal virus, which incapacitates them at varying speeds. The main patients being the flight crew, leading to the plane not having any pilots. Hence, pandemonium ensues with some funny jokes and lines along the way. So that's
Can
about
I
it.
just ask?
Hmm?
Were you reading that? Because that was actually really. That was
Yeah,
such
it's
a
really good.
synopsis.
Oh, thanks, guys. No, I wasn't.
You should do it every week.
I
Yeah.
was just spinning that off the top of my head.
Damn, look
Spitting
at
facts.
this. Spitting facts.
Right then, promotion.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Joe's
Yeah.
not the host anymore.
Oh, that's it. Right.
Let's just
I'm
restart
out.
the recording here. Hey guys, and welcome to the Shoal Weekly Podcast. I'm your host, Ben.
And today we'll be looking at Airplane.
Damn, I've been Mufasa. Long live the king. Yeah, the film is mostly a parody of, I think, 0 Hour from the 50s. Because I think what was really interesting, I was watching it with my girlfriend, and she was like, "Why? How old is this film?" Because she thought it was like from the 60s. Because of like the way everyone was talking,
it gives off that vibe as well. Like the
yeah,
way it's filmed as well.
Yeah, and like the main character Elaine, she's the air hostess, stewardess.
Bit of an airhead as well.
Yeah, there we go. Wait, but she has that kind of 1960s kind of like transatlantic accent, where she's like, I don't know, oh Ted, like I don't know what to do, and it's just it grates on you. But I think that's the point. I think it's supposed to be reminiscent of that. But yeah, I mean, it is a big parody of, I think, 0 Hour, and there's so many other films throughout
Like
the course.
any like disaster movie, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, well, and even like I suppose like Jaws, even like does it at the very start, doesn't it? When it's in the clouds, that's so good.
Just
I actually
parodies
think that I think the main character in 0 Hour from the 57 was actually called Ted Stryker as well.
Oh, okay. They're not shying away from it then.
Yeah, no, they haven't.
It genuinely is like it's so obtuse. Like you do not have to have a sharp humor to enjoy this film, but it is so clever. Like it's like the cleverest, dumbest film ever. It's everything is like almost done like to a meticulous level of detail.
It's like clockwork, isn't it? It works so smoothly, but also
exactly.
it's so silly. Like
Yeah, it's just
That-
straight up slapstick comedy. It's
And I
Yeah.
think if I could describe the film in one word, it would be unexpected. Like everything's so unexpected. Like when the main character, when Ted says that he has a drinking problem, and then he just
Oh,
throws the
that's
drink at his eye.
It's I think almost I'd say my one word summary would just be literal. Everything they say in the film is
Mhm.
taken
yeah.
100% literally, as if you just inputted it into like, you know, a 5 minute old AI or something that just doesn't
Exactly.
understand the
Yeah.
I feel like
context.
this is something that like an AI would produce, and we'd be
Yeah,
like, "This isn't a story at all. You've just
yeah.
shat out a load of stuff and somehow made it cohesively a narrative."
And
As a
this is why,
script.
Chaz, this is why The Room is not a meta piece of art. Okay?
Oh,
Not
damn.
when things like Airplane exist, okay?
Airplane's a meta piece of art as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty good. I mean, it does break the fourth wall on numerous occasions, which is just so unexpected. I'm going to steal Joe's line that it is just hilarious. Like he's just in the airport and he just looks at the camera. It's like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
I love the repetition in the film is something that makes the comedy really memorable for me as well. Like there's a few times where the same joke is made.
mhm.
For example, Rumac says to Elaine, this woman needs to be getting to a hospital. And Elaine's like, a hospital? What is it? And Rumac's like, it's a big building with patients, but that's not important right now. And then that same joke gets repeated like 3 or 4 times, but with different, I don't know, like different,
Places.
different
Yeah.
places. um,
It's like you need
but,
it in the cockpit. What's that? It's where they fly the plane.
but that's not
That's
important
not
right now.
important right now.
Yeah.
And then I think there's towards the end of the movie, the doctor who kind of inspires Ted to get over his fear of flying and to land the plane safely. 3 or 4 times he keeps coming in the cockpit to say, "Just to let you know, we're all rooting for you. Good luck." And he
Our
does
lives
that.
depend on it.
Our lives depend on
Yeah,
it.
our lives depend on it.
And after the plane lands, right at the crescendo of the film is over. We've passed the peak, and then he just comes in the cockpit again after the plane is safely landed, and he's like, our lives depend on it. Good luck. I just came to remind you. It's fantastic.
Oh.
A bit of an airhead moment for me. I thought that the captain and the doctor were the same actor for about 10 minutes
Oh dear.
because I thought it was really funny the way the camera pans on the doctor for the first time, sat in his seat. I laughed because I was like, oh. And then my girlfriend was like, "Why are you laughing?" And I was like, "It's the same actor." She was like, "It's not."
I mean, now that you brought it up, when the pilot sends one of the air hostesses to go and find a doctor, and he says, "Go find a
Mhm.
doctor really discreetly," and she's like, she just goes down every seat and just leans in. Is anybody here a doctor? Anybody here a doctor? And then this woman goes, "Excuse me, ma'am. I think the person sitting next to me might be a doctor." And it just pans to the doctor, and he's there with a
Yeah.
stethoscope in his ears.
Yeah.
It's just like the most obvious sign that he is a doctor.
And then the doctor's like, "Captain, how soon can you land?" And the captain's like, "I can't tell." And he's like, "You can tell me. I'm a doctor." It's fantastic. And he says, "No, I mean, I'm just not sure." And he's like, "Well, can't you take a guess?" And he's like, "Well, not for another 2 hours." What? You can't take a guess for another 2 hours?
Like
It's
I said,
so
literal.
Yeah,
literal. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I think everyone knows that really famous line as well. Can you fly this plane and land it? It's like, surely you can't be serious.
yeah.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
I think
Uh,
oh god, no, there's I think maybe it's good to note that this is a film that was made in the 1980s, and as such, some of the humor from the film is definitely less in the line and more who gives the line, which it does create maybe it does it's very awkward to watch in places, I think, in a
yeah.
kind of
Mhm.
21st, 2021 kind of modern society. Some of it is a little bit kind of rips you straight out of the magic of the film, and it's like, whoa, like that is not quite okay, which is definitely really good to I think to notice and to we know now that it's not okay. What would you say though? Here's what it is. We've seen quite a lot of, as we've done some research on this film, quite a lot of instances where bits have been censored out of the film, and we've had this discussion quite a few times already.
Mm.
But what do you think
Mhm.
in the terms of this film? Do you think it should be censored when it's put onto the different streaming platforms as films are these days? They're kind of on like a bit of a carousel, aren't they? They come and go. What do you think to Airplane? Do you think it should be or shouldn't be?
I think with the right parental guidance, it shouldn't be censored. Because the film itself is a PG, believe it or not. So children can watch it. But whenever it's released on DVD, it's always been given a 15 because of the director's commentary. I think the directors like swear or something, or and it bumps up the level to 15. But overall, my professional opinion is that I think a film like this should be rated 15 anyway.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I think one of the worst and cringiest moments in the film is actually where I think the captain says, something about the passengers all turning to jelly, like because of the plane is going through turbulence, and then the camera pans to a plate of jelly, and then slowly also pans to a woman's breasts shaking like jelly. And I just don't find that funny. Like it's very cheap.
Yeah,
And then
there's a lot.
later
A
on,
lot of the film is cheap though. Like
Yeah.
most
then
of the
like
jokes in the film are cheap.
yeah, but then like later on, you see the woman's breasts again, but naked, like she's like in the middle of the aisle as the plane's going down. Everyone's panicking, fully clothed, and she just like walks into frame, shakes her breasts, and like walks off again.
It's not even like her head. It's literally just her chest in frame. There's
Yeah.
nothing else of her.
You cannot put a face to this woman's breasts. And so to me, I think like I don't know why the film would be rated a PG for that. Like nudity should be
Yeah.
automatically like if it's something sweet like Titanic, then I guess you can get away with a 12. But if it's in a joking way, I think 15. And then obviously there's a very racist. Well, racist might not be the right word, but it's actually no. I'm gonna stick with racist
Inconsiderate.
because
The
it's very
caricature.
inconsiderate. Yeah, there are two black passengers on the jet that speak in what the film calls "quote unquote" jive. So they speak with that kind of African American vernacular that's kind of goes hand in hand with people black people who live in like Detroit or live in more sort of working class areas. But it's exaggerated to the max. It's like
To the point at which they put subtitles on it.
yeah, and that becomes a problem. I think it's funny in that kind of old fashioned context, and then that joke is made worse by there's a moment in the film where one of the stewardesses is trying to talk to them and she can't understand them. So this old white woman who's like 80 years old is like, "It's okay, I speak jive," and she just starts talking to them. And for all intents and purposes, it's a very funny caricature moment, but it's very outdated now, obviously. But I think it goes back to the same thing that we've talked about 2 weeks ago with The Pursuit of Love, and what we talked about with Aladdin and Breakfast at Tiffany's. It's that again, I'm always in that mind that censorship is, I think, more damaging and less educational than actually leaving something in.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I will say for Airplane is that I think you could get away with editing it out more because some of the jokes that are a bit outdated, they don't necessarily add to the story or the narrative. They're more just like side skits that don't
That's a
really.
good point. Yeah, they're just there because at the time that was fashionable to, that
Mhm.
would have been hilarious.
Yeah,
But for us,
But-
it just doesn't fit in with the greater
greater good.
Greater good.
Greater good.
Flashback comedy.
Yeah, but I feel like you could definitely not have those in there and it'd still make sense. Which
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, as we've said, it's probably better to keep them in, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not a necessity.
Yeah, I think I've actually got a list here because I always find it really fascinating when films have like alternate versions. Like I could talk about film censorship for days. I always find like the way films are censored for Chinese markets really interesting. I think me and you, Chaz, have talked about that before
Yeah,
in a previous episode.
There's been some big ones of those recently, hasn't there? Very high profile.
Yeah, and I think what it would be worth to do is actually do an episode talking about like the history and relationship between the Chinese film industry and Hollywood, because I think it's very interesting. And yeah, so stay tuned for that. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, please.
Please.
But no, here I've got a pretty interesting list of like alternate versions of Airplane.
Sorry, you didn't say it right.
Sorry, some versions do not have alternate versions of Airplane. Here, so some versions do not actually have those subtitles for the jive dudes, quote unquote. That's not what I'm calling them. It's just what the film refers to them as. And obviously, the original theatrical release had the subtitles. My version was interesting because I watched it very, very legally, obviously.
Obviously.
Obviously, watched it very, very legally. And I think for the first encounter, they had the subtitles, and then later on in the film, they didn't. So I was a little bit confused as to that.
I may or may not have watched the same legitimate copy.
Just some other notable changes to different versions that may have been on TV or something. The Sky Movies version, as I'm aware, actually broadcasted the punchline to the cocaine joke.
Got that.
There's like a moment where like she snorts. Is it the stewardess?
No,
Like,
it's the passenger.
that's it. The nun, isn't it? A nun or something?
No, it's not the nun. It's just the one next to the. I can't even remember it now. Now you've brought it up.
This is
she's
Ben's
just
got
like-
the seating plan out. He's looking at the seating plan.
She was sitting in aisle 3A, and no, it was something like, "Are you okay?" It was like, "Are you okay?" or something. Or you got a drink, and she's like, "Yes, all fine." And then she just like
She doesn't want the drink, does she? She doesn't want the alcohol. She's like, no, I'm okay. Like, because I think the woman sitting next to her offers like.
Oh yes, you're right. Yeah, it's like, "Would you like a drink?" She's like, "No, I'm all right."
No, I don't drink. And then she does a fat line of coke off her finger.
That's great.
Yeah, so I that was actually in my version that I watched, but I know that whenever it's on TV, that is completely pulled. I think that's down to the rating, because
Yeah, Class A drug, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I didn't mean the rating of the drug.
No, I meant it gets cut from the films because it's a Class A drug, and
okay.
It would probably make it an 18, wouldn't it?
No. There are so many
Really?
12s that have drug use in them. Yeah. I'll make you a list. Don't worry.
That'll be the next festival.
Yeah. But, oh, wow. Films that are 12 or PG-13 that have drug use in them. Yeah, no. So I think the version I had the joke kept in, but if you watch, if you ever catch Airplane before the watershed, which in the UK the watershed is what we call that cut off at 9 p.m. So usually I know that in America they do TV differently. Like they'll put whatever on the channels at whatever time, but before the program starts, they'll always tell you what the rating is.
Oh wow!
So that you can like switch. Yeah, like, I think because we don't really have TV ratings in this country. Like they're always either, as I'm aware anyway. I know that TV stuff does get rated, but they don't actually like put them on TV like as they're being broadcast. Like so if the TV show makes it to DVD, obviously the DVD will have a BBFC rating on it. Or if it's on Netflix, you can see the rating in the corner. But no, in America, literally, as soon as you start any program in the top corner, it will then say if it's like a TV PG or a TV 12 or a TV MA, I think, which is like the mature audiences one.
Masters.
No, Masters. Yeah.
You have to have a Masters to watch this program.
Yeah. That's like
MA.
that's Fight Club.
Yeah. The following is not suited to uneducated individuals.
Most of the films that Charlie watches.
Yeah.
So I think before 9 p.m. you'll never catch anything on TV before 9 p.m. that is any more than like a PG-13 or a 12 or something. So if you want to watch anything that's above that, 15, 18, some 12s, they're always going to be on after 9 p.m. So I think Airplane's always on before 9 p.m. because it's funny and it's family friendly ish.
Ish, that's a big ish.
That's yeah. I should put an ish. I should put an exclamation mark at the end of that ish.
I was going to say it's a very ish.
Yeah. Airplane is suitable ish. Yeah. Ben is just very slyly written in the notes here that drug use content is restricted to a PG-13 and above. But that's
From
America
Wikipedia.
though. That's
No, that's UK.
we don't have PG-13 in this country.
Wow,
Ben.
it's on Wikipedia and it says UK, so it must be both.
That's right then. Yeah.
We don't have PG-13 in the
Don't
UK.
question Wikipedia, Joe.
Right,
All right.
it's 12A. All right, it's 12A.
There we go. Yeah, the BBFC is UPG 12, 15, 18, and 12A is only for cinemas. Would have
Alright.
you believe?
Fucking alright, I'll get rid of the A then.
Yeah. Thank you. There we
That's
go.
what
That
happens
makes
when
me
you try
happy
and
now.
take on a nerd.
Fight me. I have the power of God and anime on my side. Yeah, so just to cap off, I think in the TV version that there is an alternate take where the woman's breasts are bouncing and showing, featuring. She's in like a tight red and yellow striped t-shirt. So, and she's like covered up. But I think in the version I watched, it was just very nude.
I suppose that still works. Even is it more tasteful? I don't know. I suppose it is.
Well, Agatha Christie always said the thrill is in the chase, never in the capture. So you may make that as you will. You've got to leave something to the imagination, haven't we? So
it's just the fact that you use the words chase and capture, red flag. Red flag.
We're such a sophisticated podcast, aren't we?
This is such a segue into arguably the weirdest moment of the film. The captain, the way he speaks to one of the children in the movie. So that one of the children that's flying on the flight, he really wants to see the cockpit, and the stewardess is like, "Yeah, absolutely, I'll see what I can do with the captain." And the child goes up and sees the cockpit, and it was just supposed to be this like fleeting visit. The stewardess is like, "Right, let's take you back to your parents." But the captain's like, "Oh no, it's all right, little scamp. He can stay. He's not harming anyone." And then the captain just starts talking to him and asking him really weird questions, like, "Have you ever been in a Turkish prison?"
Have you ever been in a gym changing room?
Have you ever stared at a man as he's naked? And very, very strange. To me are moments in the film that I just cannot make sense of. Like there are some really weird jokes that just don't add up with any kind of context.
And then again, there are some great moments concerning some children earlier on in the film, which totally are just there for no other reason than I think just to be funny. But I think it's quite famous. The line, in fact, it is extremely famous. I don't.
Shall we reenact it? Shall we?
Yeah. Do you want? Which part do you want? Which part do you want?
I'll be little girl.
Okay, I'll be your boy with coffee.
Okay.
Excuse me, I happen to be passing, and I thought you might like some coffee.
Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you.
Takes coffee.
Passing you coffee. Wait, let's restart. Charlie, you be the narrator.
He already was being the narrator.
I know, but I ruined it. I jumped in. Right. Excuse me, I happen to be passing, and I thought you might like some coffee.
Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you.
Takes coffee.
Oh, won't you sit down?
Cream?
No, thank you. I take it black, like my men. End scene. I would like
credits
to
roll.
Yeah, so for our listeners, that's just an example of some of the jokes and moments that are very strange in the film that you can expect. We're not really selling it as a family-friendly comedy, are we?
No,
it definitely isn't a family-friendly comedy. Let's be real.
It is advertised as one though, which does make it interesting. Yeah, I know.
Is that just the writers making just having another joke here? I don't know.
Yeah. This is family friendly. Psych.
Can you imagine?
It's family friendly sometimes.
Imagine taking your child to see this in the 1980s, and then just I don't know. I think I would have been scarred as a little child watching this.
That's why everyone did coke in the 80s when they grew up.
There we go. Speaking of some like weird trivia related to the film, you would think that a plain like disaster film wouldn't be very profitable in the in-flight entertainment sort of box office success, but funnily enough, Air Mexico was the only airline to buy the film for their in-flight entertainment, which I just find amazing.
I thought you were gonna like say that it was like the most played on airplanes or something like that.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
That would have been good. That would have been funny.
Yeah.
One thing I really noticed about the film, which actually made me laugh, is when the Boeing 747 crashes through the large windows inside the terminal. I immediately thought, oh, well, Christopher Nolan was lying to us. Like, this is not the first time a full-size plane has been filmed crashing through a hangar. Up
He
yours,
obviously
Tenet.
hasn't seen Aeroplane, has he?
No, he
Sorry,
hasn't.
Airplane.
Um,
No, it was very good. But I was one thing. Just speaking of in-flight entertainment, one scene that just didn't make sense on any level was just the fact that they were making just to kind of as the pilots were slowly dropping from illness, they dropped the big projector screen at the front of the plane, and everyone had a little like kind of stethoscope style headset, and the in-flight entertainment was plane crash testing. And it was just
yeah,
like planes like spray painted, or like the kind of like those like those crash test dummy just like those just like
yeah.
piling into the floor. I was just like, it's just like things like that are just in the film that just are not even mentioned by anybody, but they're just like, why on earth is that there? And it just makes it so much funnier.
Do you want to hear my argument that the airplane has predicted artificial intelligence?
What would
What?
Yeah.
the self-drive or whatever it
Let's
is?
appreciate the automatic pilot.
That's
So
it.
in the film, they press automatic pilot, which you would think would just sort of be an algorithm where the computer takes over the plane. But no, this giant inflatable dummy pilot that inflates in the co-pilot seat. And not only is he just there like stationary, he moves, he winks, he
That's
waves.
really unsettling. When it winks, I'm like, oh, it's send like, what the fuck?
No, the most unsettling part is when he's starting to deflate and
Yeah,
his face
yeah.
changes, like, he looks really miserable, and then, Elaine, the stewardess, like, runs in, and she's on the phone to ground control, and he's saying, "Oh, you need to inflate him," and his inflation device is
Manual
down
nozzle.
between his legs. So she starts doing this motion, with her head between his legs, and then the doctor comes in, and you just get this horrible angle. Well, you get two horrible angles. The first one is from the behind of Elaine just making a motion, which just looks terrible. And then the worst part and the scariest part, which has been ingrained into my cerebral cortex, is just the automatic pilot's face has
It's
changed
like
to this really like cheesy grin,
it's
like
like
with big
in The
eyes.
Room,
Yeah.
the guy in The Room.
Oh,
So we say in The Room and Airplane are a cinematic universe.
Yeah,
they're both meta.
yeah.
Shirley, you're tearing me apart. Don't call me Shirley.
Surely.
Oh,
All together.
that's a terrible one as well.
Yeah.
Would you recommend this film to a family?
Maybe if the kids had
If they
like
were
grown up.
teenagers, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a good one to watch with mates. My
Oh,
girlfriend didn't like
definitely.
it. She didn't
She
like it
didn't
at
Really?
like
all.
it.
Well, here's the thing about my lovely girlfriend and comedy is that for listeners who don't know, my girlfriend's Italian, right? And they have a very, very different sense of humor. So Italian sense of humor can be quite animated and slapstick, and like all good old fashioned humor, it can be a little bit racist as well.
So she
But
should have loved Aeroplane, right?
Yeah.
you would think that, but like Italians don't do dry humor. They do over the top expressive humor. Like they don't do these kind of like literal jokes or puns or anything like that. It's just not their kind of style. So I have tried so hard. Monty Python, Only Fools and Horses, Airplane, just that kind of like, it just doesn't go down well with her at all.
Wow.
So I think comedy like this really I think it is really tailored to English and American comedy.
Yeah. It's very British, isn't it?
Well,
I was
that's the
gonna say
thing I
I
was
thought
trying
it
to
was
think of. I thought it was very American. Like,
I
Really?
thought it was very American as well. At first I thought it was more British, but I think it's quite British in the fact it's very almost like not it's not really self-depreciating, but it's kind of like almost in the literalness of it. It's kind of almost like one long dad joke, which I think is quite
Yeah.
British.
Yeah.
But then it's an American film, and I think there's quite a few like almost Americanisms in there. But to be
Yeah.
honest, I think for me it was that clever and that good that it kind of transcended either or.
Yeah.
It was just great use of the English language, and
Mhm.
just great use of of the camera and everything else that it did. So for me, it was kind of it was almost an American film doing British humor, but at the same time, I thought it was just brilliant. So I don't
I
really
think it
care.
was. I think the big problem for my girlfriend is that she didn't. It was more sort of like the weird sexual humor that just wasn't very
Right.
funny. Like she thought it was just weird and unsettling. She did kind of enjoy some of the puns. Like she absolutely cracked up at the. Are you nervous? Yes. Is this your first time? No, I've been nervous lots of times. Like, that one was good, but yeah, I don't know. I think it also perhaps when it's your second. I think dry humor doesn't work in any second language.
Yeah.
Like if you want to do dry humor, you've got to tailor it for a first language speaking audience. I would say. I'm sure there is plenty of dry humor that exists in Italy. That if we learned Italian to the best of our abilities, we still probably wouldn't find that funny. Just because
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe we don't get it or something. But yeah, I don't know.
I think it's this airplane is definitely the best one of like all because this set of people did like Naked Gun and stuff like
Mhm.
that, didn't they? I think Airplane is definitely the best one of those.
I think I really enjoy spoof films as a whole. I think they're better if they're older.
Yeah.
And I do think this kind of set the precedent and like set the bar for some later spoof films that came out. I think one of my favorite spoof films is the one that Charlie Sheen did of Top Gun. I'm
Oh,
trying to
right.
remember the name of it now. Hot Shots. There we go.
Right. I've not seen it.
Yeah, that was 1991, and it's Harley, a psychologically imbalanced fighter pilot, is entrusted the responsibility of destroying Saddam Hussein's nuclear plants whilst competing against a rival pilot. So it's basically
Right.
Right.
Top
Okay.
Gun, but that is exactly the same as Airplane. It's so funny. It's got all that kind of dry humor in it, and I'm pretty sure it's got Lloyd Bridges in it as well, who played the ground control sort of
Oh,
captain
right.
from Airplane. So yeah.
This was not the week to give up sniffing glue.
Yeah, Jim Abrahams is the director of Hot Shots. There we go. That makes sense. He directed Airplane as well. Wow,
Oh,
you
wow.
learn so much on this show. There we go. Yes, so you got Airplane, Top Secret, Risky, Big Business, Naked Gun, and then he did Hot Shots, and then he also did Hot Shots Part 2, which is actually what it's called, and that's a spoof of
It's like
Rambo.
the second Naked Gun's like Naked Gun 2.5 or something, isn't it? Something
Yeah,
stupid
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Like,
There is actually an Airplane 2, the sequel.
yeah, have you
There is.
seen it?
Yeah, yeah. I
And
Is
they
it
go
haven't.
to
any
like
good?
space. It's not as
Oh
good,
wow.
but it's
What?
it's still funny.
Well, Jim
So it's like
Abrahams didn't do that one. He just did the first one. So
Right.
because
fair
he
enough.
felt like he had exhausted as many of the
Any of the
airplane jokes as he could
yeah.
and racial stereotypes.
Fuck's sake.
Yeah.
No, they go to space, like, and it's like a commercial flight in space, and obviously it's like everything goes wrong again, sort of thing.
Wow.
Out of context, it really sounded like you were describing the Fast and Furious franchise there. They go
What
to space.
in the director exhausting all the jokes?
Yeah, way. Speaking of that, have you, just a sidetrack, the Fast and Furious 9 has been absolutely ripped by critics.
Really? The
Absolutely
trailer
ripped.
looks like I just watched the trailer. It just came up actually, and all it was just like a couple of minutes of them playing with magnets in cars with physics that just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what am I meant to do with this? Like,
10 quid says Ben gives it 4 stars.
Yeah.
because we're
No.
family and we stick together.
I haven't watched any of those films, I don't think.
What, you've
I
not
like-
watched a single Fast and Furious?
I
Wow.
don't think so.
Oh, some of
That's-
them are actually all right. In
It just
fairness,
doesn't appeal to me. Like,
7 was really good.
yeah, some of them are like some of them just go too far. Like so
They go too
there's-
fast and too
there's-
furious.
so essentially, right, you've got what it started out originally as is like the first few films as a narrative which basically bridges the entire thing. So it's not really like there are events that are contained within each film, but as a narrative it kind of slots into this greater like universe. But then they kind of got to like the fifth film and they kind of like, or like the fourth film, and they'd kind of like finished the first kind of almost saga of it, and then they just kind of kept pumping them out because at this point they were just absolute cash cows.
Yeah.
And I mean it's a little bit, I don't know, I don't really know, and it's hard to comment on, but it was also at the time that Paul Walker, was tragically killed in the car accident. Is kind of when it, and he was like he was like the second main character. He was like
He was the
literally-
Furious.
Yeah, it was literally like revolving around him, and it was like he's no longer like part of the franchise. And in fairness, they did a really good job, and it became a bit of a meme in a good way. That the way they sent him off, and it was great. But then from that point onwards, it's just kind of like they just pull characters out of the hats. Like literally, it's like,
Right.
oh, so and so has a cousin who's now a villain, and this guy has a brother, and it's like they're just like whipping them out. And it's become like, all the villains are like Jason Statham, and then it's like The Rock, or not The Rock. It's like it's like massive characters, like
Right.
big AAA names, and they're just pumping money really at this point.
Jason
but
Statham's just like, oh look, it's the Fast and the Furious. Oh,
what
I
a
would have got
pain
away
they
with it.
are.
I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids.
Yeah, there's an element of that, and then there was like what was it? Was it Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, where it was like kind of like
That
out?
was wicked.
It was great, but wasn't that out of time loop? Like they did that. Like it was
Yeah, so
chronologically, it should have been somewhere else or something. It was a bit weird.
we're gonna have to title this podcast as Fast and Furious now as well.
Fast and Furious! Exclamation mark.
Yeah.
Before we deep dive into the peaks and troughs of the Fast and Furious franchise, I just want to say a big thank you for listeners at home for tuning into this one. We have been talking about Airplane, not the Fast and Furious. But
Sorry,
do be
what were we
sure.
talking about again?
Airplane.
Yeah.
There we go. This has been Joe, Charlie, and Ben from the Shoal Weekly podcast. Obviously, as I said right at the start of the show, next week we are kicking off our British Summer Film Festival. So Charlie has curated some really, really amazing top dog British films, the best of British, and you can look forward to some James Bond. You can look forward to some Shakespeare as well.
Boilers, God.
Yeah. So
We're classy on this podcast. All right?
Yeah.
We know how to do
For their
films.
greater good.
For their greater good.
Great big bushy
You should have done.
beard.
You should have done Hot Fuzz. Should have done.
We
Hot
should have
Fuzz
done.
for
Yeah,
me.
that's true.
But stay tuned for that. By the time this episode is released, we should have a full schedule posted on our socials for you. So stay tuned for that, and then we'll probably try and do some kind of live event towards the end as well. I know the one for the last festival didn't go as planned due to some personal issues, but we will try and get something organized for that, whether it's a YouTube live or we can do a watch along / drinking game, because I know a lot of you enjoy Pulp Fiction as well. So we'll get something like that planned. But in the meantime, do be sure to go and check out our other season 2 episodes. We've watched some really good films this season. It's been actually one banger after another, I think, to be fair.
Yeah.
Even including The Room. It was just it was good to just talk about it. And yeah, we've got plenty more to come, so don't go anywhere. Drop a like, hit that notification bell, give us a follow on whatever platform you can, and we will be back next week with our British Summer Festival. Thanks for listening. The scene with the woman's breasts wiggling is actually
Wiggly.
show.
What a word.
How would you describe it, my friend?
Jiggle.
Jiggling.
Okay.